We never talk about why so many people's livelihoods depend on homelessness. How come some get to be comfortable because of homelessness? Somebody gets to make a lot of money simply by denying people access to homes. How come people get to be comfortable while they're causing situations which people are starving? There's no reason why anybody on planet Earth should be starving right now. And there's no good justifiable reason to starve anybody, not even who you perceive to be your worst enemy. We never really talk about how so many people's livelihoods depend on denying people access to medical care. I think it's insane how so many industries are built around you paying money to have insurance. You get into a car wreck and that insurance says, well, yeah, we can't do anything for you. Sorry. Yeah, your car's not brand new enough and we're not really trying to fix that old piece of shit. Sorry. Ain't that a fucking doozy? We never really talk about how so many people's livelihoods out there depend on denying other people freedom, denying other people the right to live, denying other people the right to a clean environment. So many of these industries pollute the environment every day. There are regulations to stop all of it, but that doesn't stop them because the fine that they have to pay is so much cheaper than making sure their shit is up to par. Thanks for wrecking the soil, Norfolk Southern. Thanks for wrecking the fucking water. Thanks for wrecking the fucking air. It's like, oh yeah, everybody gets like a $750 check from that. This is to assist you guys into finding new shelter. Yeah, you're not going to be able to live here anymore. Matter of fact, if you could just sign this non-disclosure agreement. Matter of fact, to add to that, if you could just sign this thing that says you won't speak out against the state of Israel, the government of Israel, then they got drilled by the fucking ball sack. And all that shit Norfolk Southern did to East Palestine just goes to show you that it doesn't really matter how much work you do or how hard you do that work. Forces outside of your control could always fuck shit up. Some people probably moved to East Palestine, bought a home, started a family, settled down, and some years later a train just fucking spills a bunch of waste into your fucking community and it's done. So many people's happily ever after turned into a fucking nightmare. Yeah, you might die a little bit earlier from all the toxic shit that you just breathed in. Yeah, I hope you weren't running your water and fucking bathing in that shit. And that's the worst part, is people still trust the government. And what did the government do in that situation, you guys, with East Palestine, Ohio? The FDA came in, I believe it was, or the fucking EPA or some shit, some FEMA. And they didn't do a goddamn thing. They just held up the whole process. They're like, well, we're going to let the fucking corporations explain what happened. Yeah, I know a lot of you just lost your homes and your livelihoods right now, but... And that's literally how they do this shit every damn time. They fuck everything up. And the corporations put out a nice little press fucking brief. And then the goddamn government says, oh yeah, well, this is what their press briefing said. And then the fucking media corporations are in cahoots with them all too. So it's like, well, this is what the CEO said and this is what the fucking politician said, so that's what you're gonna have to repeat to everybody, please. You're asking all the wrong questions. If you want me to answer those questions or those questions answered, you're gonna have to ask them to the appropriate person. And that appropriate person is not me. And that's literally what they're doing out here with people. They're playing games with our lives. They're playing games with the environment. They're trying to play God. They're trying to make all of these AI bodies. They're trying to upload people into AI minds, for fuck's sakes. All of these politicians and CEOs are like, what are you guys gonna fucking do about it? And Americans are like, well, I guess we're gonna keep going to work, Your yacht's not going to pay for itself, Mr. Bezos. Your yacht's not going to pay for itself, Mr. Musk. And I would sure love to be on that yacht with you when it sets sail. And that's what Americans do whenever somebody's richer than them. Like, oh, please, gosh, share some of your vast amounts of wealth with me. And it shouldn't even have to be like that. It should be like, oh yeah, I've got fucking billions of fucking dollars. I'm gonna fucking build something dope for the community, like a park or garden for people to walk through and enjoy. And instead they just buy off a fucking politician and they start pushing all sorts of ridiculous fucking measures and laws and bills and fuckery. Well, we're gonna sign this into law that says, you know, rich people, we don't have to pay as much taxes, and you know, poor people, you're gonna have to pay more because we really don't want to pay that much. And you know, we're gonna get a lot of money from our businesses, and you know, we're gonna give the politicians some stocks, you know, and they're gonna make a lot of money every time they pass one of our bills. I think it's crazy how they say that lobbying in America is not bribery. And it's like, well, what the fuck is it then? You're gonna have a whole goddamn politician be wined and dined by some lobbyist. They're gonna take them out for a nice fucking dinner. You're gonna take them out for a nice massage, a game of golf. You want one of Epstein's girls? We got plenty of Epstein's girls left. You know, just because Maxine's in jail doesn't mean that we don't got the fucking goods. I think it's crazy how so many people are complicit in that kind of shit. You know, somebody's little girl's working at the country club, and he's like, you just gotta say hi to Mr. Johnson, and he's gonna be one of your best tippers, I promise, baby. I worked with Mr. Johnson when I was a girl, and safe to say he's a great man. You know, I wouldn't have all of this if it wasn't for Mr. Johnson. And Mr. Johnson's like some 80-year-old dude that's like, oh, you look good in your shorts today, honey. It's kind of wild. If it was anyone else that stole as much money from you as the United States government has, and as much as the corporations have in the form of lost wages, unpaid wages, underpaid wages, well, then I think a lot of you would be angry. If you could see that number, probably something to the tune of trillions of dollars. Schools lose funding because they're always trying to pay for stupid shit. Everything in America just sucks ass because they're trying to do everything as cheap as possible, as shitty as possible. And the way to do things cheap and shitty is by cutting corners and using cheap materials. Everything by design is designed to break down, crumble. You know, if America built the Great Pyramids of Giza, those bitches would be crumbling before they were even completed. Facts. I think it's crazy how America has one of the largest militaries in the world, and people are like, yeah, no one can take us on, we're so fucking awesome. And because we have one of the largest militaries in the world, American education system is severely underfunded. The fact that SNAP was even at risk at any point in time should show you how little concern that they give about you as a human being. And instead of cutting SNAP off because they couldn't, they're like, well, let's make them reapply for SNAP, just making it a pain in the ass for people. If you want to earn these benefits, well, you're gonna have to work. They really want you to just accept this fact that you're a slave. Slaves work to earn. You don't actually get freedom in America, okay, baby? You gotta pay for that. And if you invest into the bullshit now, you won't have to pay as much as the people who invest into the bullshit later. Really, America just be feeling like one big MLM marketing scam. One big pyramid scheme. Pokemon was legit when it was 151, and none of us even had a chance to really get into it. But like, here's 2 games, and by the time you get bored of those, there's 2 more games, and by the time you get bored of those, here's 500 more Pokemon. Magic the Gathering is just a twist on Pokemon. You know, Candy Crush was a big thing back in the day. Now there's like 20 different Candy Crush clones, 20 different Pop the Bubble clones, 40 different Match 4, 5, 3 clones. And everything's the same. You gotta pay to win. You gotta pay to win. If you want to win the game faster, you gotta pay more money. But you see, a lot of these games, there is no winning. The game just keeps going on till infinity. You see, the game was being played before we were born, and the game will be played long after we all die. Ain't that the truth?